public defamation and state vilification of Sergeant MaCabe and his family. And what of the concerns of the other whistleblowers? Last week, your government proved itself once again to be incompetent, incohesive, and without any real authority to govern except that gifted to you by the Fianna Fáil leader. Citizens deserve a 21st century accountable policing service. So do members of An Garda Síochána, and this government is not capable of establishing that. And you and the Fianna Fáil leader, in your choreographed stage-little exchanges of a moment ago, may laud the merits of the public inquiry you have just belatedly announced. But the credit for that public inquiry is entirely down to Maurice and Lorraine MaCabe, and it should not proceed without their full agreement. And while your government remains in office, there will be no truth. There will be no justice for Maurice MaCabe and no resolutions of the wider issues underpinning this shameful episode. A criminal investigation is needed. Like last week, you rejected a Sinn Fein amendment to the terms of reference of your ill-fated commission. And this amendment would have allowed investigation of contacts between members of An Garda Síochána, members of your government, former members of the government, members of the Oireachtas and other state agencies relevant to the allegations made against Sergeant MaCabe. And you blocked that. Why, Taoiseach, was that blocked by you and your Justice Minister?
Taoiseach.
Well, you're an absolute hypocrite after what you did and what you said to former Senator Maria Cahill. And what you did and didn't do in respect of safe houses, on safe houses this side of the border, where sexual abuse was conducted by members of your organisation on young men. You are an absolute hypocrite. Absolutely hypocrite. Now, let me tell you something, Deputy Adams. If you want to play politics, with an issue that is so sensitive and so personal that it goes to the very heart of the public soul of Ireland, then do so. But I don't agree with you, because 4 days after this minister got 2 protected disclosures about these very serious issues, she sent that to an eminent judge to examine them. And he carried out his analysis and he said, I cannot determine the truth here. What you need to do is set up a commission of investigation. And the government followed his recommendation to the letter in respect of the terms of reference and the way that should be conducted. Because it is, Deputy Adams, not about running away, but about facing the issue here, which is to determine the truth. Was there or was there not a deliberate smear against Sergeant MaCabe and his family by senior members of the Gardaí? And here's the issue, Deputy Adams. Here's the issue. You have never gone through this because you ran away each time it was raised. When you set out, Deputy Adams, to have a tribunal of inquiry under the 1921 Act, you cannot show any bias to anybody in the setting up of the terms of reference here. You cannot determine the outcome of the inquiry before it ever begins. And I understand the difficulties and the stress and the pressure that this has caused for the MaCabe family. There is nothing worse in this country than being called a sexual abuser. Nothing worse. But everybody has a presumption of innocence. And there are 2 people here who vehemently deny that they were guilty of any smear campaign against Sergeant MaCabe. And that's why Cabinet, in its wisdom today, has decided to have a tribunal of inquiry under the 1921 Act, which will be fair to everybody, which will be drawn up with terms of reference that will include all of these relevant issues to get at that central question. Was there or was there not a smear campaign against Sergeant MaCabe? And you, Deputy Adams, to come into this house here, after what you did and said about Senator Cahill and about young men on this side of the border who were abused in safe houses by members of your organisation, is utterly hypocritical. This government will set up the facility together with members of the House so that central question can be answered.
I want to raise to your bluster, to your diversions, to your distractions. The fact is, Taoiseach, on your watch, all of these malicious accusations and allegations and malpractice, all of that happened. And every single proposition put forward by Sinn Fein to you to deal with it, to patronise the process, to radically reform in Garda Síochána, to have transparency, you dismissed it all. So, Aithnín, Cirog, Ella. Let me ask you the question again, which you refused once again to answer. Why did you block the amendment to allow the investigation of contact between members of Garda Síochána with members of your government, former members, members of the Oireachtas and other state agencies relevant to the allegations made against Sergeant Maurice MaCabe? Now, you can say what you want about me, but you would have much more credibility if you answered that straightforward, simple question. You should tell the Dail, when you were briefed about the false child abuse allegation made against Sergeant MaCabe. Stand up now and tell the Dail when you were briefed about that and who briefed you. Secondly, you won't. You'll stagger on. And your government's sole achievement has been to completely undermine public confidence in your ability to government. And you're now a major obstacle to a satisfactory resolution of this crisis and other matters of public concern. Sinn Féin will not put up with that, Taoiseach. Fianna Fáil might. They might prop up an arrangement that has delivered nothing but perpetual crisis. So, Taoiseach, will you answer those two questions, and then will you have the grace to call an election?
Thank you, Deputy Taoiseach. To conclude.